Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto travels the world and made his massive harem and became a harem legend, part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. He was shaken out of his stupor when it spoke. I see someone has finally signed the Phoenix summoning contract. It looked down at Naruto and said, and a very young summoner as well. I can sense great power within you, but before I let you use my clan you must pass a test. Naruto looked at the creature and said, test? What kind of test? The Phoenix looked at him in the eye and said, a test of the heart. We of the Phoenix clan are one of the 4 legendary summons. To be able to use this, the summoner must have a pure heart and soul. Do you wish to continue this test? If you shall fail, you will die to keep the location of the scroll safe. Naruto looked the Phoenix in its fiery eyes with his own burning with determination. I accept. I will not fail. I have too much to do to die now, and I won't let Q-chan die either. The Phoenix said, very well. We shall see if you are worthy of the Phoenix contract, and with that Naruto was engulfed in fire. The Phoenix watched through Naruto's memories and watches his heart and soul remained pure and became only stronger. It was quite surprised when it saw Shinigami and how he has the light and dark elements. It knew that this boy would make a great ally of the Phoenix clan and that the gods must have plans for the child, since the more matured of the Phoenix clan are able to use the light element including itself. It concluded the test and watched as the flames left the boy. Congratulations Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. You are the first summoner of the Phoenix clan. As I said earlier, we are one of the 4 legendary summons. I am quite surprised at what you have gone through so far. I believe we can also help you with your light affinity when you start training in it, as the more matured phoenixes within the clan including myself are able to use this element. I expect great things from you, child. Practice summoning with different levels of chakra to see what you summon. Before I leave, let me tell you who I am. I am the boss of the Phoenix clan, Fenikusu. Naruto nodded his head and said, arigato for giving me a chance, Fenikusu-sama. No need for formalities, child. I am much too old to care about those, Fenikusu chuckled. Until next time, Fenikusu, Naruto said. The boss Phoenix nodded and disappeared back to the summon world. When Naruto went back to the entrance to the cave, he saw it was still raining, so he decided to take a nap after everything that's happened. When he opened his eyes, he saw the smiling face of Kyuubi. She tackled him and hugged him to her ample bosom, with him having a small blush. No matter how many times that happens, he just can't get rid of how good it feels. She pulled away from him and said, you're amazing, Naru-kun. You have signed the contract of one of the legendary summons. I had a good idea that was who it belonged to, but I knew if anyone could gain their trust it would be you. He smiled at her as she hugged him to her bosom again. Yup, today is definitely a good day, he thought. Naruto had made good time crossing through river country. He decided to stay for a month there working on his water manipulation before training for a year in wind country. He learned a few Suiten jutsu too from the scrolls he brought with him. He was able to get his manipulation to high genin level before he left. He spent the next year working on his wind manipulation. He would stay at small towns and staying away from Suna as often as he could, but would drop by when he needed supplies they couldn't provide. He managed to get his wind manipulation to high chunin level and had quite a list of Fuden jutsu as well, ranging from C-rank techniques like Fuden Daitapa to Suna's prized A-rank technique K's no Yaba that he was able to see a Suna Junin named Baki perform. He also continued practicing summoning different levels of phoenixes. The younger ones were quite excited to meet a human, while the older ones sometimes helped him on his wind manipulation training. He had also met the daimyo of the country after he had heard how Naruto was defeating bandits roaming his country. He and Naruto got along very well and became quick friends. Naruto had asked him to keep his identity a secret before he left. He agreed and welcomed Naruto to his country and home anytime he wanted. Naruto spent about a couple months traveling through bird country, rain country, grass country and waterfall country, meeting the daimyos of each country and becoming friends after defending them from bandits or defending towns from bandits through his travels. While in bird country he met the children of daimyo Owashi, Toki, who he took a quick liking to, and her twin brother Sagi. He avoided aim as he did not want to deal with the legendary ninja Sanshou no Hanzo, who defeated Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru in their prime together with his summon, and was the one who dubbed them the Densetsu no Sannin during the Second Great Shinobi World War. He visited Kanobi Bridge, where his father's genin team destroyed the bridge to help lead to victory during the Third Great Shinobi World War, but at the cost of his genin Uchiha Obito, and how Kakashi gained the Sharingan from his dying teammate's last wish. He also heard that the last member, a girl by the name of Rin, left the village shortly after his father was chosen for Yondaime Hokage. During his travel through Waterfall Country he met another Jinchuriki by the name of Fu, who was a genin from Taki, who was 3 years older than him. He told her about himself and his plans for himself and the other Jinchuriki. She was shocked, but she believed him. He told her to travel to Whirlpool Kingdom and stay in the royal palace if she needed someplace to hide. He planned on putting seals around the place like the Namikaze compound to keep intruders out, and only people with blood the seals recognized would be allowed let in. She hugged him and gave him a kiss on the cheek, which earned a blush from him that both Kyuubi and Fu noticed. After taking a sample of her blood and bidding her goodbye, he traveled to Earth Country. Naruto made sure to stay away from Iwagakure no Sato when he stayed in Earth Country. The Kage that was in charge during the war against Leaf was still in power, and he didn't want any trouble. At least not until I'm strong enough, he thought. Earth Country was perfect for his earth manipulation training. He was able to get it to mid-chunin level during his stay and improve his jutsu arsenal with Doden jutsus. He also was able to maintain an Iwa bingo book and add it to his Suna, Aim, Kusa, and Taki collection. He was able to take out low-level missing nins and a couple B-ranked ones. He would henge and receive the bounty on them, and his skills got better with more experience. He somehow ended up meeting the daimyo of Earth Country and found out that he does not hold a grudge against Konoha or the Yondaime Hokage. He told Naruto that he was looking for a chance to remove the current Tsuchikage from power, but too many people still hold a grudge. He told the daimyo like he did Win's daimyo the truth about him and what his plans are for the future. To say he was shocked would be an understatement. He was talking to the son of the Yondaime Hokage and Konoha's Red Death and the grandson of the late king of Whirlpool. He agreed to Naruto's plan, but would only be able to help once Iwa got a new Tsuchikage who was not out to destroy Konoha but would help him in any way he could. Till then, he left Earth Country heading towards the ruined, for now, Whirlpool Kingdom. It was the middle of July when Naruto left Earth Country for Whirlpool Kingdom. It was the beginning of August when he finally reached Whirlpool's border. He summoned an army of 2,000 shadow clones, told them to stay out of sight while he had them travel the countryside. Naruto traveled further into his kingdom. It was a couple hours until he saw his first village. By the looks of it, the people were definitely living a hard life. He just hoped that it wasn't like this for every place the people were living. He continued on, promising to himself to help his people as soon as possible. Over the hours, more of his clones were dismissing themselves, and he found out why it was called Whirlpool Kingdom. Surrounding the entire coast were whirlpools about a mile out. He also received the location of what he assumed was the capital. He was also saddened at the fact that not too many other places were faring better than the village he saw. After another couple hours of travel, he arrived at the capital. He could see that a good portion of it was intact or had been rebuilt already. He made his way to the largest building he could see, assuming it was the royal palace. Oddly enough, it didn't have any damage at all from what he could see. It was midday and the people were still out as he walked through the streets. The people were eyeing him cautiously and started following him. By the time he arrived in front of the palace, he could see that there was no damage at all. He eyed the gates and was broke from his thoughts by someone speaking who looked to be the eldest among the crowd. I don't know who you are, child, but if you plan on going in there, then think again. The royal palace is not only guarded by us, but the palace is surrounded by seals that only allow the royal family or anyone they allow to enter, spoke the old man. Okawa-san failed to mention that the place was protected by seals, but that would explain how it survived the invasion, and that also means nothing has been stolen, Naruto thought as he approached the gate. A blood seal plus a few other seals. The place isn't as advanced as the seals protecting the Namikaze compound, so I'll have to update it before I leave as well as add more seals. If you need a place to stay the night, I have a room for you as long as you don't cause trouble, the old man said. Thank you, but that won't be necessary, Naruto said, then bit his thumb and wiped his blood on the seal. The old man's eyes along with everyone else's widened as they watched the seal that protected the royal family's home light up. Then they heard an unlocking noise. The old man nearly had a heart attack when he watched the child open the gate. Who or why you? The man asked. Naruto looked at him and the rest of the people in the crowd. He saw the shocked faces upon each of the adults and the confusion among the children who didn't know what just happened. At first light tomorrow, I want a group of you to go and inform the people around the kingdom to gather in the capital at the end of the week at noon. There I shall tell you who I am and what I have planned for the future of this kingdom, and with that Naruto walked in and closed the gate behind him. The townspeople quickly left with hope in their hearts. Naruto looked at his home in his kingdom. It was 3 stories and about the same length as the main house back in Konoha. There were statues of the previous kings in huge gardens to his left and right. The grounds needed to be fixed up as well, with overgrown grass and weeds everywhere. He walked up to the door of the palace and put blood on that seal as well. He waited for a few seconds, then opened the door. When he walked in, he saw steps to his left and right that led up to the next floor, where a painting of his grandparents, the former king and queen, and his mother about his age was hung on display. He created 200 clones and ordered them to explore and clean up the place. He walked back outside to explore the grounds while his clones cleaned the house. He created more clones when he found the shed and ordered them to clean up. He found a training ground in the back as well as a male and female side onsen and a smaller onsen for private use. There were even swings and slides and other toys for children. He decided to relax in the onsen while the clones cleaned up everything. He started to think of what he planned to do from the things he's seen so far and how the people would react once he tells them who he is. From the looks of the people who saw what happened earlier, he didn't think there'd be much trouble. After about 2 hours, he received the memories of his clones that they were finished. He learned that there was a basement, which was where the clan library was, and the 2nd and 3rd floors were all bedrooms. He redressed and went to bed for the day. When he woke up, he headed to the throne room where the king would entertain guests, but more importantly was where the sword was that would make him king. As he walked through the palace to the throne room, he praised his clones. They, I sure know how to clean up a place, he thought. When he reached the doors that led to the throne room, he pushed them open and walked in. He saw more paintings along the walls and 2 thrones in front of him. But what caught his eye was the most beautiful sword he had ever seen. It was stabbed in a stone. I know King Arthur, but couldn't think of anything else, and noticed there was no sheath for it. The hilt was shaped as a dragon with the blade coming out of its mouth. To see a pic, check my profile. Credit goes to Shinte-chan for the awesome design. When he approached it, he slowly wrapped his left hand around it. He gripped it tightly and pulled it slowly out of the stone. When it was fully out, he could finally appreciate its true beauty and its power. After a few swings, he sealed it into the seal he drew after he woke up on his left wrist. It was only 3 days till he made his announcement, so he decided to train while sending clones to the library to collect any jutsu he didn't already have, especially the ones dealing with sub-elements. The day finally arrived. Naruto, dressed in black Anbu-style pants, dark blue shirt with a Chunin-style vest over that, with his scrolls, shuriken and kunai pouches tied to his legs and strapping his mother's kodachis to his lower back. He left the palace and headed toward the gate. Once he arrived, he saw a crowd of people outside. He opened the gates and he walked to the center of the capital with the people following him. Once he arrived, he saw a stage and thousands of people there. He stepped onto the stage and the people quieted down. Thank you for coming. I'm sure many of you are wondering what is going on, and if you let me finish my story, I promise you I will answer any questions. As some of you may remember, during the Third Great Shinobi World War, the Kingdom of Whirlpool was attacked by both Iwa and Kumo. The royal family fought against the attackers to give time for the people to escape. They put up a great fight, but even with their bloodline there were simply too many enemies. So one by one they fell, knowing that at least they made sure the people lived. Now many of you believe that the entire royal family was killed, but that is not true. One member survived, and that person was Uzumaki Kushina, the royal princess. She was able to flee the country with dreams of rebuilding it. She fled to Konoha, where she joined their forces and became a powerful kunoichi, and she slowly fell in love with a man named Namikaze Minato. Each became famous under the titles Konoha's Red Death and Konoha's Yellow Flash. The man eventually became the Yondaime Hokage, and the two got married shortly thereafter. She told Minato of her past and he pledged to help her however he could. Then Kushina found out that she was pregnant with a boy. She and Minato were very excited at starting a family. They had to keep their marriage and her pregnancy a secret, though, to protect them from their enemies. Only their closest friends knew. They decided to name their child Naruto, the main character from Minato sensei's first book. But the happiness was not to last for long, as evil men were planning something terrible. They traveled to the greatest of the Biju Kyuubi no Yoko's den, where they attacked her and forced her to attack Konoha. As the Yondaime received news of more of his ninja dying, he knew there was only one way to defeat Kyuubi. So after a lengthy fight with Kushina, they agreed to induce her pregnancy 3 weeks early. With their son born, the family spent a few minutes together before he left with his son in his arms toward Kyuubi. You see, there is only one way to defeat a Biju, and that is by sealing it. But a being as powerful as the Kyuubi would require the strongest of containers, and ironically the strongest of containers that can contain a being such as Kyuubi is a newborn baby that can adapt to the Biju's chakra. But that is only half the problem. The other half is a seal that is strong enough to contain it inside the container. So with great regret and sadness, the Yondaime summoned the Shinigami, who along with his own seals sealed the Kyuubi into his newborn son at the cost of his life. With the deal done and the Kyuubi now sealed into his son, he was told by his closest friends that his wife and mother of his child had died shortly after he left due to complications from birth. With the thought that his son was now going to grow up without his parents, he made his final wish for his son to be seen a hero for stopping the Kyuubi, and then left to join Kushina in the afterlife. But the villagers and shinobi did not honor his wish. They only saw the boy as the Kyuubi reborn. They demanded his death, so the Sandaime passed a law forbidding anyone speaking of the Kyuubi sealed into the boy, but that did not stop them. They would hire assassins and would chase him and beat him as soon as he could walk. They would try to starve him to death, and if it wasn't for Kyuubi's healing powers, he would have died before his 5th birthday. The orphanage he lived at would make him sleep in a closet, then when it rained, sleep outside. They kicked him out on his 4th birthday, where he lived on the streets for 6 months before the Sandaime found out and got him the only apartment that would let him live there, in the slums. Then finally the day that changed his life appeared. It was his 5th birthday and the 5th anniversary of the Kyuubi's defeat. Naruto traveled outside wanting to have fun like everybody else, but this was not to happen. The people soon spotted him and chased him into a dead end. They approached the crying boy and started beating him, stabbing him with poisoned weapons and smashing his head against the wall till his skull cracked. Then finally, to end it, one ninja went through hand seals for a Kaden jutsu and set the boy on fire, where he finally passed out. When he woke up, he appeared in the seal where he met Kyuubi, who explained to him why the people hate him and the truth of why she attacked. He also met his parents with the help of the Shinigami. But even with Kyuubi's healing abilities, the boy was still dying. The injuries were just too much, and the seal wouldn't allow any more of Kyuubi's chakra to leak through. So the Shinigami made an offer. He would alter the seal that would create a third bloodline for Naruto that would heal him from almost any attack. He'd even be able to regrow limbs and live a longer life than others. But instead of the seal changing Kyuubi's chakra to his own at the age of 25, it would be finished on his 16th birthday. After agreeing to this, Naruto hugged his parents one last time. For the next year he trained in the Namikaze compound in secret with the help of Kyuubi. Then on his 6th birthday he left the village to travel the world and continue his training, vowing to rebuild his mother's kingdom and become the greatest Hokage Konoha has ever seen. He paused, looking at the crowd. He could see the shocked looks and the tears in their eyes. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. I am the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. I promise to each and every one of you that with your help I will rebuild the kingdom of Whirlpool and make my family and all of you proud of me, and I never break my promises. And with that he unsealed the sword of the king into his hand and held it up for all to see. They started cheering and chanting, "King Naruto," over and over. He slowly made his way through the crowd as he shook the hands of the men and was hugged by the women. He told them that he was planning on leaving to continue his training shortly after his 11th birthday, which was in 2 months, and help the people until then. He also told them to keep this a secret until he revealed himself to the world. They all swore on their life to their king. During the 2 months Naruto continued training with his clones and had his clones help the people as well. Buildings were built and fields of food were plentiful. He upgraded the seals on the royal palace as well as adding Fu's blood to the seal to allow her entrance. He celebrated his 11th birthday with the people, then he retired to his bed in the main bedroom when he appeared in his mindscape. He walked toward the house Kyuubi had added to the seal. He walked in and saw Kyuubi lying down on the couch. He walked over to her and lifted her head up before sitting down and resting her head on his lap. He smiled at her as he ran his hand through her hair. They had been doing these types of things a lot recently. He knew he had feelings for her and he was pretty sure she did as well. He wanted to kiss those soft red lips of hers so bad recently, but thought he was too young or she'd reject him or some other lame excuse. Screw it, he thought, and leaned down and captured her lips. Kyuubi was enjoying the sensations Naruto caused her, and all he did was things like run his hand through her hair. She was in love with him and would see a look in his eyes every now and then. She was broken out of her thoughts when she felt lips on her own. Her eyes snapped open and saw Naruto was kissing her. OMG, he's kissing me. My first kiss and Naruto's kissing me, she thought. She calmed down and returned the kiss. He started to get more aggressive, licking her lips, making her moan and part her lips slightly, allowing his tongue to sneak in. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew he liked it, and by the sounds she was making, so was she. They battled their tongues for dominance until Naruto won and he ravaged her mouth. Her moans only encouraging him. After 5 minutes of the most pleasant thing either had experienced, they broke for air. He regained air and stared into her amazing ruby eyes. He put his hand on her cheek. I love you, Q-chan. I've had feelings for you for a while now. You are my best friend and one of my precious people. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, he said. Kyuubi started crying as she hugged him and kissed him again. I love you too, Naru-kun. I've loved you for so long. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to have your kiss. To spend so many first times with you. To tell you the truth, that was my first kiss, and what a kiss it was, she said and blushed at the end. Naruto just chuckled at her before he picked her up bridal style, heading to the bedroom where they laid down with her head on his chest. They fell asleep with happy dreams. Naruto left the next morning making sure he had everything he needed. He added another section to his mindscape to keep the scrolls he planned to bring with him from the library in the royal palace separate from the Namikaze library. When he left the gate and approached the exit of the capital, he saw a crowd of people. I promise to return, and when I do we can begin the real rebuilding of our country, he said to them. He noticed some tears from the children and he opened his arms and they ran to him, tackling him to the ground. Shish, it's okay. While I'm gone, get stronger to protect your precious people, and when I return you can help me rebuilding our home. The women along with Kyubi looked on and smiled at the scene thinking, he'll make a wonderful father, with some blushing and having nosebleeds including Kyubi. He finished the goodbyes and headed towards Lightning Country. Ready Koishi, he thought. Kyubi smiled and thought back, ready Naru Koi. Naruto traveled east and reached Rice Field Country within 2 weeks. He traveled through when he ran into 5 shinobi with a headband he didn't recognize. On the Hitai was a symbol of a music note. He eyed them before saying, "What do you want?" The apparent leader of the group spoke up, "We are looking for shinobi willing to join us and serve our master. He is a powerful man and if you interest him he can grant you great power." Naruto thought for a second before saying, "Who is your so-called master? Also I have never heard of a Hitai with a symbol like that. What is the name of your village?" The leader smirked before saying, "We serve the great Orochimaru-sama. He has created his own village here in Rice Field Country called Otogakur no Sato. Now since you know too much information you can join us or you can die." Naruto's and Kyubi's blood boiled at the mention of Orochimaru. So that bastard is creating his own village. I need to take care of these fools quick then look around for some information, he thought. Sorry but I'm not interested in serving a pedo like Orochimaru, and with that said Naruto created 4 clones to deal with the others while he took on the leader. He didn't even break a sweat against them and searched their bodies and taking one of their Hitai before burning the bodies. He created 200 clones and had them travel the country gathering any info they could. He traveled and ended up in a town that looked it was doing quite well. He ventured into a section called Fuma Alley, after a quick henge no jutsu into a 20-year-old version of himself. He walked into a club called Club Lie Down, and after spending some money coming up with nothing he left and turned into an alley. He saw that he was surrounded and looked on with a bored face at the apparent leader who had a zanbato on his back. I suggest you hand over anything you have before we have to hurt you. My name is Fuma Hanzaki and this territory belongs to the Fuma clan and since you're in it that means we own you as well but we'll let you go. Just hand over the stuff, the man identified as Hanzaki said. Naruto just looked at the man and replied, no. Then he smiled. Hanzaki just shook his head and said, I warned you, then charged at Naruto. Naruto just stood there charging chakra to his hands while he watched the man draw his zanbato. He lifted it above his head then drew it down. What happened next shocked everyone but Naruto. Naruto caught the blade in his right chakra-covered hand then punched Hanzaki right in the gut with his left chakra-covered hand and watched as he flew down the alley and was knocked out. Naruto looked around him and spoke to a girl who looked about 13. Am I correct in assuming you own the bar I came out of? She nodded unable to speak. Good. Follow me and pick up your leader. We shall let him recover in there. I have a few questions to ask. And with that he walked up to her and put a hand on her cheek looking her in the eyes, did you get all that? She blushed and nodded ordering the others to do as instructed. By the way I didn't get your name. The girl responded, Fuma Kotoheim. He smiled at her causing her to blush again saying, that's a beautiful name, before he headed back to the club with her and the others behind him. Once Hanzaki regained consciousness Naruto summoned Kotoheim into the room with them and closed the door locking it and going through hand seals too fast for them to see put up a privacy jutsu. Then he dropped his henge and turned to look at their stunned faces. This is the real me and I put up a privacy jutsu so no one can hear us. They both just nodded both shocked that Hanzaki had been defeated so easily by a child younger than Kotoheim. Now I want information on what's been going on in this country especially regarding Orochimaru and this new village of his, he said then showed them the forehead protector. Hanzaki asked, where did you get that from? Naruto looked at him with a serious face. On my way through this country I ran into 5 shinobi who wore these forehead protectors with a symbol I've never seen before. They told me they were looking for other shinobi to join them and their master. I asked who they serve and the name of the village. The leader of the group told me what I wanted to know thinking he could scare me into joining the village or die knowing the information I had. That was foolish as I killed him and the others then burned their bodies before taking this Hitte and anything else valuable, he finished. Hanzuki and Kodoheim looked at the boy who just claimed killing 5 shinobi at least Shunin rank each like it was nothing but with the look on his face knew it was true. Hanzuki sighed before starting. Well, it started 2 years ago when Orochimaru visited the daimyo of this country and somehow convinced him to let him build a hidden village that he named Otogakure no Sato, and with that Hanzuki with comments from Kodoheim told Naruto everything. How he convinced some members of the clan to join him to gain the power to rebuild the Fuma clan. When he ended he looked at Kodoheim who nodded back. There's one more thing but it concerns the laws of our clan. When the leader is defeated by someone else then that person becomes the new leader of the clan and since I was the leader and you defeated me that makes you the new head of the Fuma clan, he finished. Naruto pondered this. Well this sure is an interesting predicament and a useful one, he thought. Hey Q-Heim, what do you think of this? And with that he explained his plans. Sounds like a good idea Naru-kun, Kyuubi replied. He gave her a mental kiss on the lips that made her smile. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at them. Alright, if I am going to be the head of this clan then I need to explain some things to you two as you both will be in charge when I'm gone with Hanzuki my second in command and you Kodoheim my third in command. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, son of Konoha's Yondaime Hokage and Konoha's Red Death. Their names were Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. My mother was the royal princess of the former Whirlpool Kingdom and part of my plans are to rebuild it. I was coming from there on my way through here. I also plan on killing Orochimaru for personal reasons. My first order is I want you to keep your eyes and ears open. I want information on what is happening and I'll collect every month by sending a shadow clone who you'll give any information you have and tell him anything else. One of the benefits of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is anything it learns is transferred back to the original. I'll send one of my summons with the clone and if you need to give me anything give it to the summon and it will return to where I am. Also the most important order I give is don't die. You two cannot tell anyone my full name or my heritage yet. I'll just go by Uzumaki Naruto for now. I'll spend a week here getting caught up on everything that you have been doing. Also no more of this gang stuff. I'll give you some money that should last for a year and then I'll send some with the clones later on till you guys can run on your own. They both just nodded. Kodoheim blushing thinking how commanding he can be. Hanzuki was just glad they found someone who can help the clan with honest motives. Naruto left. Club lie down. After the week and after getting a kiss on each cheek by Kodoheim and a girl he meet during the week he took a liking to as well by the name of Sasama who was the same age as him he left heading toward Lightning Country once more. Naruto traveled for 2 weeks until he reached Lightning Country's border at the beginning of November. He decided to travel to Kumogakure no Sato first to try and get their bingo book and stock up on supplies then travel along the eastern coast while working on his water manipulation then inward towards the mountains to practice his earth and lightning manipulations. He arrived at the entrance of the village after 3 days. Halt. State your name and purpose for your visit, stated one of the guards. Naruto had decided to henge into a teenager with a basic build with brown hair and black eyes. My name is Toshiro. No surname. I am traveling the world and have come here to rest and restock my supplies, Naruto replied. The guard looked at Naruto for a couple seconds before writing down the information and allowed him through. Naruto found a hotel and rented a room for a couple nights. He took a look around his room and went through his supplies making a list of what he needed before taking a shower and went back out. He could sense a couple of shinobi tailing him. Must be for security reasons he thought. He picked up some medical supplies as he was running low after helping his people in Whirlpool Kingdom and some members of the Fuma clan. I'm just glad I started learning medical ninjutsu or I would have run out of supplies a long time ago. He also picked up more kunai and shuriken. He was able to sneak into the place that produces Kumo's bingo books and got the latest edition. With that he went back to his hotel and went to sleep. He decided to relax today before he left tomorrow, and after a quick breakfast he decided to explore the village. He found it to be a nice place. A bit quieter than Konoha, but it had a peaceful sensation to it. He was walking down a road when his eyes caught sight of a kunoichi heading his way. She was beautiful with blonde hair tied in a braid that went to her mid-back and black eyes. Her brias were easily D-cup with long legs attached to a firm SS. She started eyeing him as well. When they passed each other, time seemed to slow down, then she continued on. What was that? I could sense something from her, he thought. I felt something too, Naru-kun, and I believe that was the container for the Nibi no Bakeneko, Kyuubi replied. Naruto's eyes widened and turned around, but she was already gone. Damn, she was right next to me and I didn't even get to say a simple hello, he thought inside. Don't worry, Naru-kun. I'm sure you two will meet again. Her container is strong, Kyuubi replied and gave Naruto a mental kiss on the lips which had him smile. Arigato koishi, Naruto thought. Anytime koi, Kyuubi replied. Naruto decided to spend a couple hours at one of Kumo's famous onsens before heading back to the hotel. He paid the clerk and entered the room for the males and clothed, then wrapped a towel around him before heading to the water. He decided to drop his henge for now. When he entered, he noticed two other people there. Both were dark-skinned and had white hair and were obviously shinobi. The younger of the two looked to be about 5 years older than him. But it was the other guy that had his attention and Kyuubi's. He had a tattoo on his left shoulder that said, Iron, and a tattoo on his left cheek that resembled a bull's horn. He also gave Naruto the same feeling Fu in the container for the Nibi gave him. Kyuheim, what are the chances that we meet two other Jinchuriki in the same day? Naruto asked. I don't know, but he is definitely a Jinchuriki. From what I can sense, I'd say he contains the Hachibi no Kyogyu, she replied. Naruto gave her a nod and continued into the water. While Naruto was eyeing the two and talking to Kyuubi, the ones he was eyeing were eyeing him. Yo Hachi, do you sense what I'm a Senzen killer bee thought to Hachibi. Hi, I do, you buffoon. This child is powerful on his own and he contains the Kyuubi no Yoko as well, Hachibi replied. What do you think I should do? He replied seriously. Order Omoi to leave and speak to the boy. If he's in contact with Kyuubi, then he already knows about you, Hachibi responded. Killer Bee nodded his head toward Omoi, who nodded back and got up and left. Naruto watched the younger man leave, then turned his attention back to the older man who hadn't moved. Is it safe to talk here? Naruto asked. Hi, it's safe. Omoi will make sure no one will bother us. So I'm guessing you know of what you contain? Killer Bee asked. Hi, I've known since my 5th birthday about Kyuheim, Naruto replied. Killer Bee raised an eyebrow at the Heim before he asked, Heim. Naruto smirked before saying, well, she is one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen and I love her and she me, Naruto replied. He looked at the other Jinchuriki's face before saying, I'm guessing Hachibi never mentioned that they can take a human form. Killer Bee thought. Yo Hachi, is this true? Yes, was the simple answer. Killer Bee's left eye twitched before saying, how come you never told me? You never asked, was his reply while holding in his laughter. Killer Bee just shook his head at his friend before looking back at the child saying, my name's Kurabi but people just call me Killer Bee. Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Naruto. By the way, earlier today I crossed paths with the Nibi container while exploring the village, but she was already gone before I realized who she was. You wouldn't know her name by chance, would you? Killer Bee nodded. Hi, I do. Her name is Niyugito, one of our best kunoichi if not the best. Naruto nodded his head in thanks. After a few minutes of silence, Killer Bee spoke up, so what are you doing in Kumo if I may ask? Naruto opened one eye looking at him, stocking up on supplies before I head out to begin training on my lightning manipulation and continue on my others. Killer Bee's curiosity was picked up when he mentioned his lightning affinity but was shocked when he mentioned others. Others? How many do you have? I only have one which happens to be lightning. Naruto hesitated before replying, 7. Killer Bee was shocked and confused before saying, 7. There are only 5 main elements and, he was cut off by Hachibi's gasp. What's the matter, Hachi? This child speaks the truth. There are actually 7 main elements, but the last 2 were only wielded by one other human. The Rakudo Sennin. Those elements were light and dark. If he truly does possess those elements, then he has the potential to be the greatest shinobi to have ever lived. Killer Bee got over his shock before replying, well damn. How do you have affinities to the other elements anyways? One of my bloodlines, replied Naruto. Bloodlines. As in more than one. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone with more than one bloodline. Naruto looked at Killer Bee and said, I have 3. 2 from my parents and the 3rd I got after Shinigami altered the seal to prevent me from dying on my 5th birthday. Now Killer Bee and Hachibi were shocked again. Shinigami. As in the Shinigami. Naruto nodded his head and told him about his past. How the villagers treated him in the meeting of Kyuubi, his parents and Shinigami. Killer Bee and Hachibi laughed hard when he mentioned he called the Shinigami, Shinigami. He also mentioned his plan for the other Jinchuriki. Killer Bee told Naruto that before he left he'd give some instructions to help him with his lightning manipulation. Before he left, Naruto asked for a sample of his blood to add to the seal protecting the royal palace and said that if he ever needed some place to hide or rest to stay there. Killer Bee gave his thanks and his instructions to Naruto and watched as he left Kumo. He's going to change this world for the better, Killer Bee thought, then added, then I can share my music with the world. Hachibi just shook his head at his crazy friend of a container. When he turned around, he spotted his 3 students watching him. The big braised blonde student of his spoke, Sensei, who was that? Killer Bee took a look behind him before looking back at his students. That my students was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko and the one who will become the strongest shinobi who has ever lived and change this world for the better. If you ever fight him, run away or surrender, as you have no hope against him. With that, he walked past the stunned faces of his students thinking of his next song while bugging the crap out of Hachibi. Naruto spent 3 months traveling along the coast. He had finally mastered his water manipulation and wind manipulation. I can start working on combining them next, he thought excitedly. He also improved his chakra control with him using medical ninjutsu on the people in the villages he came across. By the time he left, he had cleared up the coast of bandits and missing nin, and word was already spreading about the protector of lightning country. Naruto made his way higher into the mountains. He came across the perfect spot for training but noticed a small cabin. He approached it and could sense someone in it. When he knocked, he heard someone approaching and opened the door. When he got to see who it was, he saw that it was a young beautiful woman. 2 was preparing to make dinner when she heard a knock at her door. Who the hell could that be, she thought. When she approached the door, she could feel the power of the person on the other side of the door. She readied herself and opened the door but was shocked to see a mini Yondaime Hokage. Can I help you? She asked. Naruto thought she looked familiar until he saw the loincloth around her hip. That's when he recalled where he saw her. It was in a picture of the 12 guardian ninja. But I thought they were all killed except Gigi's son when half of them planned a coup d'etat against the Hokage and the others fought them, he thought. He was brought out of his thoughts by her question. Yes, I am wondering if you would allow me to stay here in the area to practice my earth and lightning manipulations for a few months. Also, if you're trying to hide, you should make sure you aren't wearing that loincloth for all to see. 12 guardian ninja too. I'm quite surprised to see you since I heard all you died except for Asuma a few years ago, he finished. 2 was intrigued by his request and at the affinities he mentioned but was shocked when he said her name. How do you know all this? She asked. I am quite close to the 3rd Hokage and I spent a lot of time in his office when I was younger, and when he would run out for something I'd go snooping around, he finished with a chuckle. Who are you? She asked. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. King of Whirlpool. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool Kingdom, he finished. 2 was left speechless as her mind tried to comprehend what was just told. Unfortunately, that didn't work out too well as she passed out. Naruto quickly caught her before she hit the floor and chuckled. Well, I guess I better put you down somewhere to rest, he said. He found her bedroom and laid her down on her bed and pulled the blankets over her. He walked back out and noticed she was starting dinner. He decided to finish as she rested. Roughly an hour later, 2 woke up to a smell that had her mouth salivating. She noticed she was tucked in her bed. He must have put me here after I fainted, she thought with a slight blush. She breathed a sigh of relief when she noticed the only thing missing from her body were her sandals. She put them back on and followed the delicious aroma. When she arrived, she saw him cooking dinner. She coughed, getting his attention. Naruto turned around and saw she was up. Finally up, I see. I decided to finish making dinner as I noticed I interrupted you. It'll be done in a couple minutes, so take a seat at the table and I'll be with you in a few. With that, he turned back around to check on the stew. 2 sat down and watched him work. Damn, he's powerful, a gentleman and cooks. Plus he's quite a looker already, and if he grows up to be a looker like his father, he'll be even more handsome, she thought. Then her eyes widened at what she thought and blushed. Wait a minute. What is the son of a Hokage doing way out here anyways? And if I remember correctly, he said he was the king of Whirlpool. Seems I have some things to talk about during dinner. She was shaken from her thoughts by the bowl of stew placed in front of her. She took a small taste of it before she dug in. Naruto chuckled at her antics before eating his. She calmed down and took a breath before saying, "Those things you told me, were they all true?" Naruto nodded his head and said, "Yes. Everything I told you was the truth." 2 looked at him again and said, "Then what are you doing out here, and how can you be king when Whirlpool Kingdom was destroyed during the Third Great Shinobi World War?" Naruto swallowed the stew in his mouth, then replied, "As I mentioned earlier, I am here to continue my earth manipulation and start my lightning manipulation. As for how I am king, the first visited my kingdom before coming to this country and let my people know of my existence and my plans to rebuild my kingdom. I also have the sword of the king with me sealed in this seal on my wrist." He finished by showing her the seal. 2 said the first thing that came to her mind, "Damn." Naruto chuckled and said, "Yeah, I seem to be getting a lot of that recently." They finished dinner with more questions, and she explained how she was saved when the Sandaime Hokage had sent reinforcements and med ninja to the battle and they were able to save her. She then explained how the fire daimyo allowed her to leave his service and she ended up here to further her training. She told him that he could stay here with her and she'd help with his training. So with the next 8 months, 2 had helped Naruto train. He managed to master his earth manipulation, and with her help she put him at low Junin level for his lightning manipulation. She was shocked when he explained how he had affinities to all 7 main elements and his ability to use sub-elements. She was further shocked when he summoned a phoenix and a shadow clone. He told her he found the legendary phoenix contract a while back and on his way to Lightning Country managed to become head of the Fuma clan while in Rice Field Country. Naruto had also told her the truth of Kyuubi's attack and how they came to love each other. 2 for some reason was happy for them but also extremely sad. She realized she started developing feelings for him but didn't realize how strong they were. But then Naruto's 12th birthday came along, and when he was celebrating it with 2, one of the scrolls he stored in the seal popped out in front of him. "What the hell? Q-chan, did you do that?" Kyuubi shook her head and replied, "No, it wasn't my doing, Naru-kun." Naruto opened the scroll with 2 next to him to let her read it as well. To Naruto, "If you are reading this, then you are at least 12 years old. Because you are the last of the Uzumaki clan and the last of the Namikaze clan as well, there is a law in Konoha that applies to you. It is called the Clan Restoration Act, or CRA for short. What this law does is allow the last male or males of a clan with a Kekkei Genkei to marry at least 20 women for each Kekkei Genkei to restore the clan. Your mother and I agreed to 3 political marriages for you before you were born. The first one was with Suna. If you were a boy, then you were to marry Tamari, the Yondaime Kage's eldest child, who is 2 years older than you. If you were a girl, then it would have been his eldest son Konkuro, who is a year older than you, and the other marriages would have been nullified. The second marriage is to the daughter of the priestess of Demon Country, whose name is Shion. She is only a couple months younger than you. The final marriage is to Kazuhana Koyuki, daughter of the daimyo of Snow Country, who is 3 years older than you. Now none of these are permanent, so you don't have to go through with them. Marry only those that you love and those that love you back. Your loving parents, Namikaze Minato and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto and Tu were shocked, while Kyuubi knew this was a possibility but wasn't upset. From what I've seen so far, there are already other women who love him, and he has a heart big enough for all of us, she thought. Naruto looked over at Tu and noticed she was crying. Tu-chan, are you oh? But didn't get to finish as Tu tackled him and kissed him with all the passion she could manage. Naruto was shocked at first but returned the kiss. His tongue doing the same magic it did to Kyuubi. After 5 minutes they broke for air. He looked her in the eyes and saw she was smiling. I was so afraid that I'd never get to be with you. During these past months I've developed feelings for you. You're everything I could want. But when you said you and Kyuubi were in love, it felt like my heart broke. I've never felt like this before, and I know I love you, she explained. Naruto ran his right hand against her cheek and gave her a soft kiss on her lips. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I may be a genius at a lot of things, but it seems I'm still pretty dense when it comes to women. To tell you the truth, I've also fallen in love with you, but I didn't want to hurt Q-chan. But now we can all be together, he finished and leaned up and captured her lips in another passionate kiss. Two moaning as their tongues battled. Kyuubi watched on with a blush. After they broke apart, she decided to tell Naruto a certain effect his third bloodline had on his mates. As Tu looked at Naruto, she saw his face get redder and redder. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at her and said, Q-chan just informed me of a benefit my third bloodline has on women who I choose to mate with. Apparently they gain the same abilities I have with that bloodline. So if they're older than 25, then after I mark them, their body reverts back to that of a 25-year-old and stay like that, like me, and gain my extended life as well as my healing abilities. If they're younger than 25, then they stop aging at 25 and gain my extended life as well as the healing abilities, he explained, still blushing. Tu was amazed at that, then asked, how do you mark them? Naruto blushed harder and said, I bite them on the shoulder and channel my chakra into them at the end of S*X while we both orgasm at the same time. Now Tu was blushing with a bit of blood dripping from her nose. Naruto chuckled at her before saying, I'm still a bit too young for that, but I promise I will mark you when we're both ready. Then he kissed her nose, making her giggle. Naruto spent the rest of the month with her, getting closer before he left at the beginning of November. They were outside the cabin kissing. They broke apart, still holding each other. Promise I'll see you again, she said. Naruto gave her a soft kiss and said, I promise you Tu-chan that we will spend the rest of our lives together. Come to Konoha the week before the Chunin exams in Konoha in 3 years. That is when I will reveal to the world who I am and we can be together. With that they kissed again, with Naruto squeezing her making her moan before he left, heading towards the capital of Lightning Country. As Naruto left traveling down the mountain, he spotted a lot of debris and scorch marks from the thunderstorm a week back. He spotted an entrance that lead into the mountain that wasn't there before. Why not? Nothing bad has happened yet venturing into dark places. Naruto felt like deja vu when he ventured into the cave containing the Phoenix contract. As he traveled further in, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Q-Heim, is this for real? He thought. Kyuubi could not believe her koi's luck. Hi Naru-kun. That does indeed look like a dragon carved into the wall with a scroll in its mouth, she deadpanned. Naruto looked around and noticed an opening in the top of the cave. He came up with an idea. With a quick Kuchio's no jutsu, the boss of the Phoenix clan appeared. Fenikusu looked down at Naruto saying, what have you summoned me for, Naruto? Naruto looked at him before pointing behind him saying, that. Fenikusu looked behind him and was shocked before chuckling. Well, I'll be. Either you are extremely lucky or higher powers are helping you in your quest. Naruto looked at him. So is it possible to sign more than one contract? Hi, as long as the boss summons agree. If you manage to stumble across the other two legendary contracts, you need not worry, as the four great clans have been allies for centuries. Now if you intend to sign the contract, I'll stay, as it's been a while since I've seen my old friend. Naruto nodded before retrieving the contract and signed it as he did with the Phoenix contract, then yelled out Kuchio's no jutsu for the second time in less than an hour. When the smoke cleared, he was again awed by the creature. It was indeed a dragon. It had dark green skin with two large wings that it stretched out, almost reaching both sides of the cave before retracting them. It had two horns on its head and had spikes going down its back onto its tail. It looked around before spotting Naruto, then Fenikusu. Fenikusu, my old friend, what are you doing here? The phoenix replied, I came to watch the summoner of our clan, see if he passes your test or not. The dragon looked down at the one who summoned him. Indeed, he is quite remarkable, and an Uzumaki as well. I can sense the sword I gifted upon their clan long ago upon him. Very well. As with Fenikusu's test, if you fail, you will be killed to keep the secret of the location of the dragon contract secret. Do you agree? Naruto nodded and said, Hi, I agree. Then we shall begin. The test to see if you may wield the dragon contract is a test of wisdom. Without wisdom, power is useless. Let's see if you are worthy. And with that, the dragon breathed out smoke through its nostrils that surrounded Naruto. As with Fenikusu's test, he watched Naruto's life, so watched how he came up with solutions to problems in his life. He was happy to finally find a worthy summoner since the beginning of the contract. As the smoke dissipated, Naruto found himself standing before the two legendary bosses again. I am pleased to announce you, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, as the first summoner of the Dragon Clan. As long as you continue to use the wisdom you hold, you shall have the alliance of the Dragon Clan. Before I leave, let me introduce myself. I am Ryujin, boss of the Dragon Clan. Ryujin looked at Fenikusu. It seems we have found a worthy summoner after all these years, my old friend. Fenikusu looked back at the dragon. Indeed it does. I'm sure he will continue to bring honor to the Phoenix and Dragon clans. Congratulations, Naruto. Farewell for now. And with that, the Phoenix boss was gone. Naruto looked back at the dragon. Good luck, child. Also, since you have multiple summons when summoning, just think of the summon you want before your hand reaches the ground. Also, you can place summoning tattoos on your body. Just store chakra in them and swipe some blood across them while thinking of a specific summon of that clan. Each tattoo can hold enough chakra to summon either one of us legendary bosses 3 times before you need to recharge the seal. With a nod from Naruto, the boss of the Dragon Clan disappeared. Wow, I have 2 of the 4 legendary summon contracts, he said, dazed. Kyuubi giggled at her lover. You are indeed one special person, Narukoi, she thought to herself. After that, Naruto headed north further into the country, coming across more bandits and a couple more missing nin, with one even being A class. He made it to the capital after a week. It was big like the other capitals of the 5 great shinobi countries he's been in and bustling with activity. He stopped at a restaurant for lunch that had samurai guarding the entrance. After he walked in, he saw why they were here and laughed at the irony. The daimyo and the others in the restaurant turned their heads when they heard laughter coming from the entrance to see a boy laughing. The daimyo spoke, Excuse me, young man, but what do you find so funny? Naruto settled himself before looking at him and said, Forgive me, but it seems I have quite the luck in meeting powerful individuals. You see, I've met and befriended many other daimyos through my travels, and I met the daimyo of Earth Country at a restaurant as well. The daimyo rose an eyebrow at the boy. How many have you met, if you don't mind me asking? Naruto took on a thoughtful look. Well, first there was Lord Nobunaga the Fire Lord and his wife Madame Shijimi, then Wind's daimyo, then the daimyos of Bird Country, Rain Country, Grass Country and Waterfall Country. As I traveled through there, Earth's daimyo was next, then you, Naruto finished. The daimyo and everyone else was astonished who the young boy has met so far. Well, that is indeed quite some luck you have there. If I may ask, what made you come to my country? Naruto nodded and said, I have been traveling the world for a few years now and came to Lightning Country to continue my training. By the way, you wouldn't know where I can go to collect the bounties on some missing nin I ran into on my way here. Hi, I do. Why don't you join me for lunch and I'll walk you there after? The daimyo said. Sure, that works, but I hope you have enough cash on you because I have quite the appetite, Naruto said. The daimyo just nodded his head, not realizing the trouble he just entered. After an hour and jaws on the floor from everybody except the owner, who was in the back swimming in his small fortune, Naruto, the daimyo and his guards left. Like promised, he brought him to the office for collecting bounties on missing nin, and he along with everyone else was shocked when one of the nins was A-class. Naruto just ignored their looks before collecting his money and left with the daimyo following him. So child, what do you plan on doing now? Naruto looked up at the man and said, stay in the capital a week and look around, then leave for Water Country. You do realize that traveling there is quite dangerous, as there has been no contact with that country since the civil war broke out. The daimyo asked. Hi, I do, but I'll keep my guard up, Naruto replied, then added, you wouldn't know where any good hotels are, would you? The daimyo thought for a moment before saying, hi, but why don't you stay at the palace? That way we can talk more in private, as you still haven't given me your name. Naruto agreed and he followed the daimyo to his home. Naruto spent the week traveling around the capital with the daimyo. The daimyo learned that this was the person that the people were calling the protector of Lightning Country. Naruto learned about his views and ideals of the world as well. It seemed that the daimyos didn't have as much hate toward other ninja villages that others had. After finding him trustworthy, Naruto asked to speak to the daimyo in a private place, and after putting up a privacy jutsu, he told everything that he told the other two daimyos of the 5 great shinobi countries. He was shocked like all the others he told. Luckily, Naruto was told the Sandaime Raikage that ordered the mission to capture the Byakugan had been replaced and executed after the mission ended up in failure and Kumo ended with a trade embargo for 3 years. The new Yondaime Raikage, a man by the name of E, was in fact the older brother of Killer B. It was the beginning of the 4th week of November when Naruto left Lightning Country for Water Country. He could have just used one of his summons but didn't want to take the chance that he'd be spotted. The captain of the ship he was on told him he thought he was crazy to want to go to that country and during the winter season as well, but mentioned it would take about 3 days until they reached port. During the voyage, Naruto went over his skills. He and Kyuubi put him overall at cage level, but he knew he needed to be stronger than a cage if he wanted to defeat his enemies and protect his precious people. His ninjutsu was easily cage level. He had mastered his futon, suiten, doden and kaden manipulations and was close to mastering his raiden manipulation. He knew at least 30 jutsu for each one so far. With help from his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he was even able to master each jutsu C rank and lower, with a few B ranks so far, to the point he could perform them without hand seals or even saying the name out loud, which he thought was a good idea since ninja are supposed to be quite stealthy, not yelling out a technique giving a chance for your enemy to counter your attack. He planned to start working on his Hyoten and Mokuden manipulations when he arrived in Water Country, as well as his light element with help from the phoenixes. His taijutsu was high Junin level, with him almost mastering both his parents' styles. His father's style was called Maucho, Bird of Prey. This style has you using quick strikes on multiple targets to various points on the enemy's body to either disable them or use for a quick kill. His mother's style was called Hiryu, Flying Dragon. With this style, the user delivers fast, strong blows attempting to break bones on single or low number of enemies. He was also quite proficient in Goken as well, the style used by Meidagai, Konoha's taijutsu specialist. His Kenjutsu was high Junin as well. His skill with his Kodachis and Dragon Sword was on par with the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He had started using his elemental chakra in the dragon sword with the lost legendary sword style. Kyuubi taught him the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu and was pleased with the results. His genjutsu was low Junin, and while his worst subject he was still pleased with it. He could dispel any low to mid and most high-ranking techniques and cast a few C rank and higher. He was especially pleased with his knowledge of Fuinjutsu. He could confidently say he was a seal master when he managed to finish his latest project. Apparently after Orochimaru left Konoha he left behind some various research papers, and one of them was his curse seal. His father had just started making headway on getting rid of the seal before Kyuubi appeared but wasn't able to finish it. But after 6 months Naruto was finally able to find a way to get rid of it. Of course the only way to know if it works is to use it on someone who has the curse seal, but he was confident it would work. He currently had his chakra weights set to 900 pounds on each of his limbs and 950 pounds on his waist. His speed and strength were mid-Junin with the weights on, but easily cage level if he took off his weights. When he maxed them out at 1000 pounds he plans on using gravity seals. Although the thing he was the most proud of was his chakra control. He was finally able to create one Bunshin no Jutsu, and considering he has already absorbed 5 tails worth of chakra and each tail is equal to 2 cage level chakra reserves, he had every right to be happy. They arrived at a port along the northern borders of the country at night on the 3rd day. Naruto paid the captain plus a little bonus and left to look for a place to stay for the night. The town the port was in looked like it had seen better days, but he was able to find a room at a small hotel. Naruto decided to spend the rest of the month in town, then leave the beginning of December. After Naruto woke up he left the town, and when he was sure it was safe summoned 2000 shadow clones and had them henge and travel the country for information and places to train. With that he summoned 200 more clones to continue practicing his Raiden manipulation while he went through some hand seals, bit his thumb and slammed his hand on the ground and uttered a quiet Kuchio's no Jutsu. When the smoke disappeared he was greeted with one of the older phoenixes of the clan. It was about half the size of Fenikusu. It looked around for a few seconds at its surroundings before settling on Naruto. Naruto-sama, what is it you require of me? Naruto looked at the phoenix. It looked like a miniature version of Fenikusu. Before we start, may I ask your name? The phoenix nodded and said, of course. My name is Asasha, Morning Sun. I am the eldest child of Fenikusu. Naruto nodded. Well, that would explain why you look like a miniature version of him. Anyways, I was wondering if you could help me with my light element, as I was told each phoenix who has reached maturity has this element. Asasha replied, of course I would be honored to help you. First of all, do you know anything about the light element? Naruto shook his head. The light element has many uses. It can be used for healing. It is especially effective against demons and can be used as offensive jutsu as well as defensive jutsu. As with the dark element, to use the light element requires great chakra reserves, control and concentration. Naruto nodded, awed by the power of this element. Asasha taught him low-level techniques dealing with each use of the light element. Before he left a scroll for Naruto with techniques up to C rank and told him to summon him or any of his brethren for help. Naruto thanked the phoenix and watched as it disappeared back to the summon world. Naruto continued to practice till nightfall while he received memories of his clones. Apparently some of his clones decided to have a little race and dropped their weights to 0. He learned he could travel across the country in one day, and he learned some interesting things as well about the country. Apparently Kurigakure no Sato's forces were split in two. One side under the command of the Yondaime Mizukage, who he wasn't able to get the identity of, and then there were the rebels under the command of a woman who he wasn't able to identify either. He learned that it started when the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nanananshu attempted to assassinate the Yondaime Mizukage. Each of them managed to survive, but they split up after the failed attempt, and for some reason none of them joined the rebels. If I managed to get them to serve me, it would prove quite beneficial, he thought. He also found some good spots to practice his Hyoten and Mokuten elements. The young king left the town on the first day of December and did his usual routine on the first of every month of summoning a clone and phoenix to head to Rice Field Country to collect any information the Fuma clan might have. After watching they go, Naruto continued further into Water Country to the closest spot his clones found for training. When he arrived he was greeted by the very same scene his clone saw. In fact it looked a lot of what he saw when he was in the seal with Kyuubi. There was a small waterfall that he could use for his Hyoten manipulation as well as his Mokuten manipulation. There was even a small cave he could stay in to keep warm not too far from here. He decided to make camp in the cave and start training in the morning. Naruto woke up at first light and headed back to the waterfall. Alright, to use the sub-elements I need to combine the correct elements evenly, he said out loud. Wish me luck Koishi, he thought. You don't need it but good luck Naru Koi, Kyuubi replied. So for the next 3 months Naruto worked on his Hyoten, Mokuten and light manipulations. He was able to get the Hyoten and Mokuten elements to mid-chunin and learned jutsu like Hyoten, Sabama Fubuki and Moku Bunshin no Jutsu. With help from the phoenixes he was able to get his light manipulation to low junin and learned more powerful healing techniques as well as others. It was the middle of February when he ran into, more like ambushed, 4 nins. 3 of them had Kiri Hittaites that had slashes across them. One was a female that was trying to hide themselves as a male that appeared a year older than him. 2 looked to be brothers but it was the other person that had his attention or rather what he was carrying. It was the legendary Kubikiri Hako, which meant that this person must be Momochi Zabuza the Kurigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist. Naruto eyed each one carefully. He could tell the brothers worked as a team by their stance and what they were carrying. Zabuza he knew would be the toughest opponent here but it was the girl that was making him cautious. He could tell she was around mid-chunin level but that was it. He decided to break the silence. What can I do for you? Zabuza spoke up. You can hand over your belongings Gaki or you can die then we take what we want, he said with a smirk. Do you really believe you can beat me Momochi Zabuza? You are at best Anbu level and compared to me that is nothing, Naruto said then started releasing his chakra. The moment he did all 4 of them fell to their hands and knees. He let go and spoke again. But I will make a deal. You and I shall fight a swordsman duel. If you win I will serve you and hand over everything I own. If I win you and your followers will serve me and obey my every command. Do you accept? Zabuza was shocked at the power of this kid. He thought he was just some wannabe playing ninja. He was even more shocked at the deal this kid made. Zabuza looked at his subordinates before turning back to the child. Hi, I agree to the duel. Naruto smiled and said, good. No ninjutsu will be allowed. This is a battle of the blade only. Tell your comrades to back up and not to interfere. Zabuza nodded his head. You heard him. Back away and do not interfere whatsoever. They nodded their heads and leapt away. Zabuza lifted Kubikiri Hako from his back and got into a stance. He assumed his opponent was going to use the Kodachi strapped to his waist but lifted an eyebrow when he saw him lift his left hand. I am sure you thought I would be using the Kodachi strapped to the back of my waist but for a master swordsman such as yourself I believe you deserve the honor of fighting against this, and with that Naruto summoned chakra to the seal on his wrist and summoned the sword of the king, the dragon sword. Zabuza stopped breathing when he saw the sword. It can't be. That sword. I thought they were all killed. He gulped filling his lungs with air again. Why you? Who are you? Naruto was smirking when he saw Zabuza's reaction. He knew a swordsman of his caliber would recognize this sword. I will tell you my name at the end of our duel. Zabuza simply nodded before straightening himself then charging. Naruto charged as well and their swords clashed between them. Amazing. He's not even struggling against my strength, Zabuza thought. They jumped back and continued the battle. Zabuza swung his sword from the side and Naruto parried it with his own before he swung his down with Zabuza twisting out of the way. Naruto jumped up when Zabuza swung his sword as he twisted. They continued on for 15 minutes with Zabuza looking moderately tired and sweating, but Naruto was only sweating a bit. The Gaki's got insane stamina and skills. But that style he's using, I've never seen anything like it, and I think that damn brat is holding back, Zabuza thought. Naruto noticed their state of condition as well. One last go, Zabuza. Hi, he replied. With that they charged one last time. Zabuza brought down his sword while Naruto brought his sword down low and started charging lightning chakra through it. When they crashed, Zabuza was literally stunned as his body was filled with lightning. He dropped his sword and fell down. The other three that were watching were amazed at how easily Zabuza lost. They ran over to him and were about to touch him when a voice stopped them. Don't do that. He'll be fine in a few minutes. A bit twitchy for a while, but fine, Naruto said. They nodded and waited. After about 5 minutes, Zabuza started to move around. He was helped to a tree that he leaned against and looked at the person who beat him. What the hell was that? I thought you said no ninjutsu. Naruto looked at him in the eye and said, I didn't use ninjutsu. I used my sword's special ability that lets me channel my elemental chakra through it. Zabuza looked at him thinking, it's true. Only one sword was able to do that, and it looked exactly like the one he used. You are an Uzumaki, aren't you? That is the only way you would be able to use that sword, he said. Naruto nodded and replied, yes, I am an Uzumaki. My mother was Uzumaki Kushina, daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool Kingdom. Zabuza nodded, going over the information, then said, if I recall, only the king may wield that sword, and since you said former king, I'm guessing you've become the new king. Naruto nodded. That would be correct. I plan to rebuild my kingdom and I've already started with my plans. Now on to our arrangement. Do you pledge your allegiance to me, and do the rest of you as well? You three will no longer be serving Zabuza but me. I will let you stay with him though for the next 3 years, as I will be busy and will be traveling alone till then. It's been every swordsman's dream to serve the Uzumaki family, as they have been the best swordsmen that have ever lived, Zabuza thought. I pledge my allegiance and loyalty to you, my king, Zabuza said, then shocked his 3 comrades when he got on one knee and bowed. The others looked at each other before doing the same as their former leader and got on one knee and bowed. Naruto smiled. Great. Now get up and introduce yourselves. I am Guzu, twin brother of Maizu. We are known as the Demon Brothers and are former Chunin of Kurigakure. Naruto nodded his head and looked at the next one. I am Maizu, twin brother of Guzu. We specialize in coordination attacks and work well as a team. Naruto nodded again and looked at the last member. My name is Haku. I am a boy of 13 inches. She was cut off by Naruto. Do not lie to me. I know you are a girl and I understand your reasons for hiding yourself, but you do not need to in the presence of friends. Haku was shocked that he could tell she was a girl. How? She asked. I have a very advanced ability to detect smells, and males and females give off different smells, he explained. She nodded at that and restarted. My name is Haku. I am a girl and 13 years old. I have been with Zabuza for 5 years now after he saved me after she hesitated for a moment but continued, activated my bloodline. My father killed my mother when he found out I got it from her, then he tried to kill me. I killed him and the others with him with my bloodline. She looked down, afraid of what she would see in his eyes, and was startled when she felt herself being hugged. It's okay, Haku-chan. I don't think any less of you. You were in a situation that nobody should have to be in, let alone a child, Naruto said as he continued to comfort the crying girl by rocking her back and forth and running his hand through her hair. After a few minutes she calmed down and was blushing up a storm when he pulled back. He just smiled at her and winked, which made her blush harder. Zabuza was twitching. What does he think he's doing with my tool, he thought. Naruto noticed this, which was why he winked at Haku and nearly laughed out loud at the look on Zabuza's face. Haku broke them from their thoughts. Excuse me, my king, but you still haven't told me your name. Naruto blushed at that, which Haku thought was extremely cute. Ah yes, excuse my manners. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yellow Flash and Yondaime Hokage, and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and Royal Princess of Whirlpool Kingdom. Current King of Whirlpool and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, he finished. He saw the shocked look on their faces. Ah, I do indeed love saying that, he mentally chuckled. Haku was the first to recover and said, wow. The others could only nod their agreement with her statement before Zabuza spoke up. Wait, Jinchuriki. As in you have a demon sealed inside you. And the Kyuubi no Yoko to be precise. Naruto nodded. That would be correct. Although the demons are not as evil as everyone makes them out to be. I'd say humans are more evil than demons could ever be. Hell, if it weren't for demons 90% of the world's bloodlines wouldn't even exist, he finished his rant. What? They all said. Naruto sighed and told them how bloodlines came to be and how humans got greedy with power and eventually the demons left this world back to their own. They were shocked when he told them how the Sharingan came to be, and Zabuza and the other males laughed and Haku giggled, which Naruto thought was extremely cute when he told them where the Byakugan came from. They were shocked and Haku cried and hugged him when he told them of his life all the way up to now. So what do you want us to do now? Zabuza asked as he watched Naruto still holding Haku, running his hand through her hair. If Konoha has a law like the one in Kiri, then Haku might be able to join him. Naruto thought while enjoying having Haku in his arms and said, we'll travel together for the next month and train together. Haku-chan can further help me with my Hyoten abilities and I can help you four in areas you are lacking in. After that I want you four to search for the other 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and bring them to me. Tell them I will offer the same deal I made Zabuza, and also it gives them a chance in a lifetime to fight against the dragon sword. I want to make you 7 into the Knights of Whirlpool, where you will be my generals and highest ranking officers just below the royal family. Zabuza and the others were shocked, although Haku not as much, as she was comfortable in Naruto's lap with his hand running through her hair. The group stayed together until the end of March. Zabuza had told him that the Yondaime Mizukage was in fact another Jinchuriki by the name of Yagura, and before he became Mizukage they used to be friends, and when he learned that the others were planning on assassinating the Mizukage, it was the hardest thing he ever had to do. He informed him that he contained the Sanbi no Kyodaigame. When Kyuubi learned of this, she knew something was wrong, as the 3-tailed turtle was the wisest and most peaceful of the Biju and would never let its container willfully do what he's done. When Naruto asked if Yagura has always acted like this, Zabuza said no. The reason he was chosen for Mizukage was because he used to be peaceful but still would harm those he deemed a threat. Zabuza also informed him that the leader of the rebels was in fact a young woman in her early 20s. Even though she was young, she was still more powerful than Zabuza. Her name was Rose. Apparently Zabuza thought that fit her very well. Naruto had an idea at what he meant but left it at that. Also, like Kumo and Iwa, Kiri had 2 Jinchuriki as well. They also had the Rokubi no Namakuji, 6-tailed slug, in a container named Utakata that was fighting for the rebels. Naruto had mentioned about the CRA in Konoha when Zabuza asked if they had anything similar to the one Kiri had. Haku perked up at the mention of it, and when he replied they did and the number of girls he was allowed to marry in Konoha alone, she blushed the whole day and would have small nosebleeds when she looked at him, while Zabuza and the brothers were grumbling about, lucky blonde-haired bastards. Haku was amazed, proud and a bit jealous at how fast Naruto was coming along with his Hyoten manipulation. He helped her with her water and wind manipulations as well and taught her a few more jutsu. For Zabuza they improved their kenjutsu by dueling a lot and taught him a few Suiten jutsu. For the brothers he helped increase their speed and observe their surroundings when using genjutsu. When the day came for the group to leave and look for the others, they bid goodbye, but Naruto surprised them when he spun Haku around and kissed her on the lips. He licked her lips, making her part them, and he moved his tongue into her mouth. His tongue explored her mouth and got her tongue in the action. She started moaning and Naruto slid his hands down to her SS, giving it a squeeze, making her moan louder. After 5 minutes they broke apart. He chuckled at the glazed look on her face. He leaned in next to her ear and whispered, There'll be more of that when we see each other again, Hakuheim, he huskily said. She shivered before placing a quick kiss on his lips before turning around, ignoring the looks on the others. Zabuza snapped out of his daze when Haku walked by him. He watched her, then quickly turned around only to see Naruto gone. His face quickly turned red before yelling, "Damn you, Naruto. What the hell were you thinking kissing my daughter?" He heard a gasp and turned around to see a teary-eyed Haku and quickly realized what he said. He chuckled nervously before walking past her. Haku smiled and gave him a hug as she followed him. Life sure will be more interesting with Naruto-sama around, won't it, brother? Guzu said. Indeed it will, brother. Indeed it will. Maizu replied. Naruto chuckled as he heard Zabuza's yell. He sat down in a safe place before summoning a few clones to guard the area and entered his mindscape. He found Kyuubi on the shore by the pond in a bathing suit that barely covered her nippus and vena. He took off his clothes except his boxers and walked up to her and lay down on top of her and started making out with her. Kyuubi moaned and smiled into the kiss. "Love you too, Koichi," she said. They lay there together in each other's arms for the rest of the day. It would be 3 months until Zabuza came back. During those months Naruto had mastered his Raiden manipulation and gotten his Mokuton and Hyoten to mid-Junin level. He was also close to mastering his light element. He knew he wouldn't be as far as he was if it wasn't for the phoenixes helping him. When Zabuza arrived, it was with a much bigger entourage than before. He could see 6 people with him but could sense 7. He quirked an eyebrow before looking around. He finally found it and concluded it was the thing on the back on the individual wielding the Rai-Roga. That must be Kurosuke Raiga, but who is on his back? Naruto thought. Who is the person on your back? Naruto asked. Raiga was astounded that this kid could sense Renmara. Raiga slowly lifted the basket from his back and placed it down. When he opened it, Naruto could see a child in it. His name is Renmara. I found him in a village living by himself after we defected from Kiri. He has a Kekkei Genkei that gives him the ability to see through walls, cause illusions, and interfere with even the Byakugan. Unfortunately, his body is weak and he can barely move on his own. Naruto looked at the child who was staring at him before Naruto smiled at him. Very well, after we are done with our duels I will see what I can do to heal him, he finished. Renmara spoke for the first time. How? Many have tried and all have failed. What can you do that they can't? Naruto continued smiling at him. I have the ability to do things that haven't been seen since the Rakuto Sennin. I have gained what he used to heal the people of his time that would have lived a life of suffering or died. Naruto looked at the others. Each had a sword signifying that they were a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. There was of course Kurosuke Raiga, wielder of the Rai-Roga, Lightning Fangs, and known as Kurigakure no Raijin, Thunder of the Hidden Mist, Hoshigaki Kisame, wielder of Samahata and known as Kurigakure no Kaijin, Scourge of the Hidden Mist, Ringo Roshi, Pipochi, Gurpushi, and finally Deidai Shiba. As with Zabuza, I am offering each of you a duel. If you win, everything I own will be yours. However, if I win, you pledge your allegiance and loyalty to me. If I beat all of you, I will tell you what I have planned for all of you. Same rules as before. No ninjutsu, as this is a battle of the blade. I will even allow you to partner up if you wish. I will not let any of you partner up with Renmara. Naruto finished and chuckled at Raiga's frown. He noticed 4 of them had paired up. His first challengers were Roshi and Pochi. Their teamwork was astounding, but they were quickly defeated. His next challengers were Shi and Shiba. As with Roshi and Pashi, their teamwork was excellent and he almost got cut a couple times, but with a few elemental enhanced swings they were defeated. Raiga was next. He was quite fast. Easily Anbu level, but his swordsmanship was the worst of the 7. His last opponent and the strongest of the 7 was Kisame. He was bordering cage level and Naruto knew this would be his toughest fight so far. Not bad, brat. You defeated 6 of us so far, but now you have to fight the strongest of us. Let's see what you got. And with that he tossed Samahata over his shoulder and the wrappings came apart. I need to be careful. If I get hit by that it'll be a bitch, thought Naruto. Naruto raised the dragon sword and the two charged each other. Using elemental chakra will be useless on him, Naruto thought as he dodged a swipe aimed for his head. Naruto flipped over Kisame and managed to cut his back. Kisame gave a grunt at the pain but shook it off. He swung around him and was blocked by Naruto's sword and kicked him in the stomach, making him fly back. Naruto flipped in midair and landed on his feet only to dodge to the left when Samahata came down right in front of him. He got up and got into a stance that Zabuza recognized, so he's finally getting serious. Kisame eyed the stance. I've never seen a stance like that before. Naruto dropped his weights to 0 and charged forward and yelled out Kuzu Ryuzen, nine-headed dragon strike. Shit. Kisame thought. Naruto was too fast for him to block. Hell, he couldn't even see him, but he could feel each hit. After 9 hits, Naruto reappeared behind Kisame and turned around to watch Kisame fall. The others were stupefied at what they, or more specifically what they didn't witness. They didn't even see him attacking. They only saw Kisame's body twitch every couple seconds. We didn't even stand a chance, they all thought. Naruto took a breath and walked over to Kisame. With a quick activation of the mystical palm technique, they watched as Naruto's hands started glowing green and healing Kisame's injuries. Is this what he plans to use to heal me? Thought Ranmara, fascinated by the technique. After 10 minutes, Naruto stopped and backed up. He watched as Kisame slowly opened his eyes, then groaned. He looked at Naruto and said, "What the hell was that move you used on me? I've never seen it before. The speeds you moved at were incredible. You haven't seen it because it hasn't been used in centuries. The name of the move is called Kuzu Ryuzen. It is a technique from the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu style." When Naruto said that, the other 6 members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist eyes widened. How do you know that style? The hidden Mitsurugi Ryu style has been lost. How could you possibly know it? Kisame questioned, demanded. It helps that my sensei was alive during the time it was used and managed to master it, Naruto replied. Who is your sensei? Kisame asked. Kyuubi no Yoko, Naruto answered. Kisame and the others except Zabuza's group eyes widened for a second time. Kisame slowly put it together and said, "You are a Jinchuriki, aren't you?" "Yes, I am," Naruto replied. Then suddenly Kisame started laughing out loud, which confused and scared the others. "Oh man, this is good. I'm glad Zabuza found me when he did, or else I'd be dead." Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "How so?" "A week before Zabuza and the others found me, I was approached by Uchiha Itachi. He claimed he represented an organization called Akatsuki that his master started and that they were looking for members. I asked him what this organization wanted, and he only told me they were interested in capturing the Biju and therefore the Jinchuriki. He didn't tell me why he wanted them, but anyone wanting that kind of power can't be good. He told me to meet him in River Country in 2 months if I accepted," Kisame finished. Naruto listened to the information carefully. The only person Itachi would call master would be Madara, and if he knows of Madara, then he probably knows of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. That would explain the rumors of why he left his brother Sasuke alive. Since Madara is involved in this organization, that proves he's up to no good. He sighed, catching their attention. "Well, if you plan to keep to your deal and pledge your allegiance and loyalty to me, then you won't be joining them, and I believe I have a good idea at who Itachi's master is, and if I'm right, then the entire elemental nations is in trouble. Anyone who joins them I will kill if they do not surrender." The look in his eyes and the tone in his voice made them all shiver, knowing he was serious. "I swear my allegiance and loyalty to you, my king," Kisame stated, taking a knee and bowing his head. Naruto looked at the others and they quickly followed suit. He looked over at Haku and gave her a wink and a smirk to Zabuza and the others. She smiled back at him, and Zabuza and the brothers smirked back, each moving to stand next to Naruto to get a good look at their faces. "Good. Now that that's finished, it's time for me to tell you who I am. As you know already, I am an Uzumaki, but I am so much more. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. I am king of Whirlpool and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. I am the son of Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yellow Flash and Yondaime Hokage and Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina, Konoha's Red Death and daughter of the former king and queen of Whirlpool. He finished taking out a camera from nowhere and took a quick few shots. He put it away just as quick and looked at their faces. Haku and the others were barely standing up. Haku from blushing since Naruto had grabbed her hand during the speech and her giggling at their faces. Zabuza and the others had enough and fell on the ground, their sides hurting from all their laughing. Kisame summed up the others' minds when he muttered, "Damn," and with that Haku burst out laughing in Naruto's arms. When everyone settled down, Naruto held Haku in front of him with her back against his chest and his hands around her waist. Even though she was a year older, he was still taller and was able to let his head rest on her head. He kissed her cheek and let go of her and walked over to Renmara. "Are you ready? I can't promise you that I can heal you, but I will give everything I have." Renmara looked him in his eyes and nodded his head. Naruto laid out some futons and picked up Renmara and laid him down on them. Naruto activated a quick diagnostic jutsu and ran his hands along Renmara's body. His body is simply too weak. Maybe the Sannin Tsunade could think of something with regular med jutsu, but there is something I can do. Naruto looked back at Renmara. "The technique I used on Kisame won't work on you. I'm not as knowledgeable about the human body, and there is only one person I can think of that could heal you with the type of med jutsu I was using. However, remember I told you that I have the ability to use the same techniques the Rakudo Sennin used to heal people. I can use those, but I have never used it on somebody as weakened as you. I'd give yourself a 75% chance of this working, but if it doesn't, you could die. If you choose to go through with this, you'll be able to walk, run, swim, and so many other great things. The choice is up to you." Renmara just laid there not moving for a few minutes, then turned back to Naruto. "I want to do it. I want to be able to walk and run. I don't want to be a burden on Raiga anymore." Naruto nodded and had everyone else step back. He went through 30 hand seals and called out Ranpu, Seisei Sosei, light, regeneration, rebirth. Everyone watched as instead of Naruto's hands glowing green, they turned completely white. You couldn't even see his hands. They noticed Naruto had his eyes closed, and the longer the jutsu lasted, more of Renmara's body was covered by the light. After 8 minutes, Renmara was completely covered in the light when it started to fade away, and Naruto fell back breathing hard. Haku ran up to him while Raiga ran over to Renmara. "Don't worry, he'll be fine, Raiga. He just needs to rest for now, as well as me. That jutsu took a lot out of me," Naruto said, still breathing hard. "What was that? I've never heard of a light element before," Raiga asked as the others listened. Naruto looked at his subordinates. "That's because besides me, only one other human has had the ability to use this element. You see, there are actually 7 elements, not 5. The 2 that are not used today were used only once before me, and that person was the Rakudo Sennin. Those elements are light and dark. I have the dark element as well, but I have yet to start training with it." Shiba spoke next. "If that's true, then how do you know how to use these elements?" "That's because one of my summoning contracts has the ability to use the light element," Naruto explained, which only led to more questions to the others. "You have more than one summoning contract? I thought that was impossible." She spoke. "No, if the summon bosses agree, then you can use both contracts, and technically you could use every single summoning contract in existence if they all agreed, but that's not very likely," Naruto explained to them. "Geez, I feel like an academy teacher." Haku asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Nay, Naruto-kun, which summoning contracts do you have?" Naruto smiled at her and pulled her towards him, getting an "eep" from her. He sat her in his lap, chuckling at her blushing face. "Well, my dear Haku-chan, have you heard of the 4 legendary summoning contracts?" She shook her head into his chest. "These 4 contracts consist of the Phoenix Clan, Dragon Clan, Turtle Clan, and the Tiger Clan. These 4 clans created an alliance with each other long ago and are the strongest summons, with each boss equal in power. To summon even one of these bosses requires the equivalent of cage-level chakra reserves. Also, like with most other summons, you must pass a test given by the boss summon, and if you should fail, you will be killed to keep the location of the summoning contract safe. The two summoning contracts I have in my possession are the Phoenix and Dragon contracts. He heard her gasp and he looked down at her face with her eyes wide in amazement. He smiled at her and leaned down and kissed her forehead. He looked at the others and laughed mentally along with Kyuubi at their faces. They all prepared camp with Naruto summoning some shadow clones and having them draw seals around the area for protection. He gathered them around the campfire with him sitting between Haku's legs with her hand running through his hair. I think it's time I inform the rest of you of why I want you to serve me. I want you 7 to become my Knights of Whirlpool. You 7 will be my top generals and my highest ranking officers just below the royal family. You will be tasked to guard the countryside and its borders. I plan to build forts in crucial parts of the kingdom and each of you will be in charge of your own fort. We will train the people who volunteer for soldiers and teach them basic shinobi techniques as well. I never want my people to experience what they are experiencing right now. Through my travels I've met several daimyos that have earned my trust and I've theirs as well. 4 of them are the daimyos of fire, wind, earth and lightning country. Each of them have agreed to help me when the time comes, which will be in Konoha in 3 years. I plan to return to Konoha to become a ninja, as one of my dreams is to become the best Hokage that village will and ever see. I plan to enter the Chunin exams that will be in Konoha at the end of that year. That is when I shall reveal to the world of who I am. He looked around to each of their faces with Haku still running her hand through his hair. Damn, those are some pretty big plans, but I'll be right there at your side. Besides, I like the sound of Kisame Knight of Whirlpool, he finished with his shark-like grin. The others nodded their agreement as well. He was about to call it a night when Zabuza spoke up. Naruto dono, Naruto is fine when among friends, Naruto interrupted. Zabuza nodded. About this group called Akatsuki. You mentioned you might know who their leader is and that they were a threat to the elemental nations. Naruto sighed and relaxed at Haku's soothing hands and Kyuubi's soothing words. He retold the story of how the bloodlines came into existence and how the Sharingan came into existence when some of Kyuubi's power was stolen. But this time he mentioned the side effects of a power that doesn't belong to you. He mentioned since Kyuubi was female, most of the serious side effects happened to the males. He told them how when using the Sharingan causes males to lose their sanity when it's first activated, and the more you use it the faster it deteriorates. He told them how to gain the Mangekyo Sharingan and the side effect of the more you use this form the faster you lose the ability to see. And finally the last form, the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He explained that with this form the user gains Kyuubi's immortality and eternal youth. This was how Madara was still alive and causing havoc today. When Naruto mentioned what the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan looked like, Kisame choked on the water he was drinking, which caught the attention of Naruto. That eye. I know I've seen that eye. I believe Madara was the Sandaime Mizukage. Nobody ever saw his face, but I saw one of his eyes once and it was exactly like you described. The other Kiri nins were shocked at this revelation. It's possible that he could have placed some type of high-level genjutsu on Yagura or done something else before he left. With Kiri's bloodlines gone, there are less people to get in his way. Naruto concluded. He felt Haku's hand stop running through his hair and he turned around to see Haku silently crying. He picked her up and sat her in his lap, holding her and letting her cry. That bastard will pay for all the pain he's caused, Naruto and the others thought. Naruto bid them good night and carried Haku into his tent where the two slept together through the night. The group traveled through water country practicing and improving their skills. It was the beginning of August when Naruto told them he wanted to see the leader of the rebels. Zabuza agreed and led Naruto and the others to the east side of the country.